Is he? Oh, right, sorry. Okay,
come
good.
back
Leeann Watson, if you can come forward, thank you. Canterbury Employers Chamber of Commerce.
Kia ora everyone, and thank you today for the opportunity to once again present to you. At the Chamber, we have a very proud history of working really closely with the Christchurch City Council on the issues that will impact across our business community and our community as a whole, and really appreciate continuing that tradition by being here today. In the long-term plan, it says that Ōtautahi Christchurch is a city of opportunity for all, open to new ideas, new people and new ways of doing things, a city where anything is possible. To realise this vision, we believe that the Council needs to walk the talk and play a stronger, more proactive role in being an enabler of business and reducing barriers, both financial and operational, to ensure businesses can thrive. In particular, we'd like to see the Council's strategic framework focus extended to explicitly include how Council can support local businesses. There is very limited reference to businesses in the strategic framework, yet businesses play a large proportion of the rates that is a main funding source for the Council. There is also no specific focus in terms of how the prosperous economy community outcomes will be achieved. We would like to see resilient businesses be included under the resilient communities as one of the 4 community outcomes pillars. We would like a 6th strategic priority included around creating an enabling environment for businesses to both prosper and thrive. We also need to ensure that we do everything we can to shape a regulatory environment that enables and doesn't inhibit opportunity for enterprise. This requires a review of the key legislation that shapes our current regulatory environment from a business perspective. We would also like to see an increased focus and commitment to a turnaround in terms of some of the culture within the Council. We need a Council that is more solutions focused in every single interaction, at every level of the organisation, where staff are empowered to ask, what can I do to help to make this happen? We support the Council's decision not to take the austerity path, as it is vital that the city does everything we can do to help our social and economic recovery gain momentum. However, we are aware of the financial challenges of delivering these outcomes. Given the limited Council revenue base and the major impact COVID-19 has had on both the Council finances and across our business community, now more than ever is when the Council should be exploring all financial avenues it has available to them. This may include recycling or releasing capital from Council-owned assets into investments that provide priority outcomes needed for this city, which we have advocated, as many of you know, and you've heard me say many times before in previous submissions. We do, however, appreciate the very challenging balancing act of keeping rates manageable while having to invest in the future. It is also important to acknowledge that COVID-19 has also impacted many businesses in some sectors more significantly than others, and will continue to do so for quite some time to come. The proposed commercial rates increase of 5.91% will be felt by many businesses, particularly small businesses who are simply unable to pass on the cost to consumers, and will generally have to absorb those costs along with the raft of other cost increases they are facing. That is why it's so important that the Council looks at other revenue generating options. We would also like to see a greater focus on attracting more people to live here and more business revenue to increase the rate base, but making sure that we attract the right ones. In our submission, we've included our stance on water supply, investment, the Arts Centre funding and other issues, so given the time today I won't go into any detail on those. However, I would just like to say that we need to be prepared to change and be bold to shape and deliver the city, the future and the environment that our businesses and our residents deserve in this city. Kia ora. Happy to answer any questions.
I just wanted to acknowledge the way that you and Christchurch NZ came together after the COVID situation and actually re-demonstrated what you already demonstrated after the earthquakes. But I guess that's my question. Can you focus a little bit on your submission in relation to the additional funding for Christchurch NZ?
Yeah, so what we've talked about in our submission around the additional funding for Christchurch NZ is generally we're supportive of the additional funding. And I think 2 key areas. One is around making sure that Christchurch NZ has sufficient support, sufficient funding to attract the right businesses, to attract the right people, to attract the right events, to make use of the wonderful facilities that we are we both have now and we're actually building for the future, but also to make sure that there's a really strong focus on repositioning this city. I don't think we've done that well. I think we need to do more work and we need to get on with it. We can't wait until everything's perfect. We've consulted with everyone. We need to change the perception of this city, outside of this city, and actually also inside this city, very, very quickly.
Yeah, Sam.
Cool. Yeah, thank you, Leeann. I really enjoyed your submission. I was just trying to clarify one thing where it says in the overview about the supportive of the council's decision to not take the austerity path in the long-term plan, but at the same time you talked about the rates increases. So I was just trying to understand, are you saying we shouldn't cut expenses and generate revenue, or are there expenses you would like to see cut?
Look, I think, and that's why I acknowledge that this is a really challenging balancing act to get that right. What I would say there is, I guess, ask the question, has the council done everything to explore its current strategic investments and whether or not that is the right thing for the council to do? Can they actually look at bringing in additional funding through other means? Because the rating base is very limited. And until we continue to grow our rating base, then actually the council doesn't have a lot of other options. So it's about operating efficiently and continuing to explore to make sure that we've done everything that we can from an operational perspective, like every other organisation has had to do across the world as a result of COVID. But actually the main lever that you've got is your current asset base, and so whether or not there are other avenues to explore within the current asset base.
So it's more about generating revenue than cutting expenses?
Bit of both, actually. I think you need to look at both.
I'm just trying to understand what your members' sort of view would be on that.
Absolutely both. So one is around operating efficiencies, and that reduces costs, and the other one is about exploring strategic assets and whether or not that is the right thing for the council to continue to hold some of those assets or the majority ownership of some of those.